I mean, it's kind of like the more that, you know, exciting new tech comes out,
Our
the more
population is going to decline. So no one is going to fuck anymore. Is what I'm learning.
Japan's
one is fucking.
Japan's fighting a losing game.
Japan's ahead of the game.
Actually, Japan is, I think, the highest birth rate in Asia right now.
Yeah, it does.
Korea is like negative 500,000. It's because they had League.
Yeah. It is.
It's because that was like the one thing that Japan was holding back. They were like, I won't let League in. It won't get popular. We will have babies.
There are more internet cafes than children in Korea, bro.
Japan's like, there is nothing worse than gacha games. And Korea's like, haha, that's League of Legends.
Holy fuck.
League of Legends really is the population control tool.
That is the dystopian population control. Fucking League of Legends, gacha games, and VTubers. That's
China was like one child policy. Korea was like League of Legends.
No, Korea. I think Korea's birth rate was like 0.5 or something.
Holy fuck.
It's really bad.
Jesus.
Korea's really, really bad right now.
Asia, bro. Fuck no.
Asians. Maybe it's the Asians who need to
Asians,
cross.
Yeah, Asians need to fuck, bro. Y'all need to go outside and fuck. God damn.
No, because like, yeah, I personally, for me with video games, the more that I've grown up, the more I've just appreciated stylized. Like the whole like stylized graphics and stylized
like the
things.
cell shaded stuff, right?
Oh, I fucking love, and I don't know if this is definitely a me preference thing, right? Because I've always like I was fine with like the Call of Duty phase, like the real kind of like the real more realistic looking shooters or everything. But I always loved the more, let's say, not cartoonish, but the more like stylized, more
shaded,
expressive.
pixel.
I feel like that's more expressive, you know,
Like Wind Waker, Jet Set Radio type of games, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite games of all time, and I've said this, but like I think Metal Slug is just one of those games that has aged so well.
Yeah.
And it looks
It
amazing.
is a work of art today.
They went the work they put into making those sprites. I mean, oh my god, everything about that game is so good.
It is some of the most beautiful explosion sprites I've ever seen in my
It
life.
aged so well.
It's
It aged
so nice.
so well. They went above and beyond.
But I feel that's why, especially in like the indie like game scene, right? Like those kinds of like 16-bit, 32-bit games are still so popular because a lot of people still look at them being like, you know what? I love how realistic games are becoming, and to the point where it's almost indistinguishable. But there's something charming and special about this like retro look, whatever it might be.
I saw a meme and it was like indie game devs trying to decide what they wanted their game to be, and it was that that guy about to press the button and sweating, and it was like roguelike. Metroidvania or platformer. It's so true. It's like, fuck yeah, I guess. Yeah, but I guess it makes sense because obviously you can't make giant open worlds as an indie dev. It's kind of tough. Well, maybe you can, but it's obviously a lot harder. And making those other types of games makes more sense.
And hey, I hope they never stop doing that because those games are fun as fuck.
I do like them.
It's now like every major AAA studio has an apology letter on like speed dial. It just seems like every time there's a new big release, even though I'm not a gamer, I for some reason I know when a game's released when I see the apology letter, because I didn't know like Star Wars. I didn't know the new Star Wars game was out until I saw the apology letter, and I was like, "Oh, it's out! Oh, okay." I've actually wanted to play that for a while.
You bought it after the apology letter? What's wrong with you?
I saw the reviews, and I was just there, and they were like, "Oh, there's a frame rate drop issues and stuff like that," and I'm like, "I don't care about that."
Guy literally did that. I'm not going to read this, but I'm happy for you or sorry for your loss.
You're a monster.
Anyway,
I'm like, people complaining that Zelda doesn't run at like 60 frames a second or something, and I'm like, "What? It's just whatever, man."
Oh, it came out? I'll see.
Yeah, it's like game out. It's like, okay, I'll take it.
Oh my God.
I mean, the only time I don't buy if it is like a cyberpunk kind of situation, and that's the thing, right? Obviously, it's bad that Cyberpunk released in the condition that it did with as many bugs. But now that I've played it recently, now that I've actually waited a year, it's genuinely a fucking great game. Like it is a great game.
They just dropped the ball.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that they should get as much time as needed, and gamers should give them the benefit of the doubt if they end up actually fixing the bugs with the games?
Yeah, well, they're releasing they just announced a DLC.
They just announced a DLC.
Oh yeah.
Like, see, because like this is an interesting point in contexture because it's like, have you seen the latest Nakey Jakey video? Yeah. He made this comparison that I never really thought about. That actually made a lot of sense of the whole like thing of, you know, game comes out that's clearly unfinished. People complain. But then when the game developers fix all the glitches and bugs and everything with the DLC, then people are like, well done for fixing your game. Yeah. And he made this really cool comparison. It's like, that's like if you went to a Taco Bell and you paid for a full price taco and what you received at the door was just the taco shell and some lettuce. Right? But then a couple of weeks later, guy comes back and gives you the rest of the taco and your reaction is to applause him. And he's like, that's exactly the same way that people are looking at game developers. And it's like, it's weird. That's the only way we kind of view at that point. And the way, when he said that, I was like, you know what? You kind of make a point. Why do we react that way?
Okay. So I
got a big opinion.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I'm listening. You know Gantz about that because I did see that video as well.
Yeah.
And you know, I understood where he was coming from, especially with that analogy. Because I think part of the reason, I'm going to answer that question. Part of the reason I think people are happy when people fix the game is because so many game developers don't go back. There's so many EAs out there that release an unfinished products and then just leave it like that and then just never fix it. So when you have those one or two developers like No Man's Sky or like Cyberpunk that actually come back and actually commit, even though they've already made their money, to fixing the issues, I do think that deserves some kind of praise.
Right.
Like some kind, they deserve some kind of praise. I guess my kind of like, to play like devil's advocate to that kind of argument, which is, you know, why they're releasing an unfinished product, which is like Cyberpunk was never ever going to be released in time at the quality of standards that people expected it to be.
Yeah, of course.
And
the expectations were too high.
The expectations were way too high. So the argument is, would you wait a year? Because this is why
I think Cyberpunk needed more than a year.
I waited a year and I played it at when I experienced Cyberpunk, I experienced like almost zero bugs, like nothing game breaking, nothing. It didn't crash once. There was no like game breaking or immersion breaking glitches.
I had some bad bugs. I would just drop through the floor and die. It was like bad.
God damn.
Yeah. So I never experienced like any of that, and that was me waiting like a year to play Cyberpunk because I really wanted to play Cyberpunk. And so monk mode, I was like, I'll be patient. But unfortunately, from what I can see, people just aren't patient, you know?
No. Yeah, I definitely agree. People are not, because people always want to play the latest and best game.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of those games do not live up to the hype.
Yeah.
And I was sort of talking about this on stream the other day. I was like, I've enjoyed gaming so much more when I stopped following what games were being released. And I just played a bunch of games that I thought were interesting.
Yeah.
And if a game comes out and it's amazing, people will let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel any pressure to play that game immediately. Like, I know Breath of the Wild's good, the new one. I just haven't played it. Sorry, Tears of the Kingdom. I know it's good. I don't care about playing it. I'll play it in my own time. And I've just found that I've enjoyed gaming way more when I've taken that approach.
Yeah.
It's been more fulfilling because I can also be like, I never expected anything from any of these games. And when they're good, I'm always pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, for sure.
So... yeah, I also said something that was controversial, and people told me it was controversial.
What?
I hate DLC, full stop. I just hate DLC. I just wish game companies didn't make DLC.
Like all kinds of DLC, or
I am. By the time
what's your gaming philosophy? Tell me your gaming philosophy.
Okay, because Elden Ring is coming out with a DLC that is crazy big and it's awesome in swag.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But I am already done with Elden Ring in my mind.
Yeah.
Right? Which is this is totally a me thing, right? I get it. Yeah, if you want to go back into that world, fantastic. I wish that they would just, instead of making more for a game that is already kind of done, just use that time to make like a second one or something, or make a new
Elden Ring 2.
I know this is a shit take, but for me, it's like, I just don't want to get reinvested in a DLC, pay like $20-$30 for something when I already feel like I'm kind of out of it. Like, I'd rather just start something new.
No, I actually agree with that. Like, if the DLC comes out not long after the original game came out, or like you're still playing the game and you're still invested in it, and a DLC comes out, then I'll be like, sweet. Yeah. But if it's like a year or two in between, or like, you know, even longer sometimes. And I'm just like, well, yeah, I've kind of already checked out of this game. I'm like 2 games in to something else, right?
Do I really want to jump? It's probably worth going back in. Like, that's one of the rare occasions where I feel like it's worth it. But especially when some of these games split it up into like 4 or 5 DLCs.
But there's also a lot of DLCs where I just look at it and I'm like,
shit.
It might look fine, but I just can't be bothered, or it looks like shit.
Like one egregious example, I think Pokemon Sword and Shield, when that came out, was shit. And they were like, no, but the DLC is such a game changer. I'm like, what would have been a game changer if the game was fucking good?
Yeah.
And it was compelling, and I didn't waste my money.
Scarlet?
No.
Sword and Shield. The 2 expansions.
Yeah, which they were bragging about how amazing they were.
I didn't play those.
Because
I was already checked out. I finished the game already.
This sucks. I don't. You've already fucking burnt the bridge. Don't fucking release this shit.
Well, in my case, it's like I already had beaten the game 100%. So I'm like, I'm done with this game. Like, I don't want to go back to it.
I felt burnt. I was like, you think I'm a fucking idiot? You think I'm going to come crawling back, give you money for the chance that it'll be good? Fuck off, bro. You already took $60 from me, and it sucked.
That's like if like an anime was really dog shit, and they're like, no, watch the OVA. It's fine. Just
all right, Joey, though, I have 3 words to completely throw a spanner in your argument.
Okay.
Persona 5 Royale.
See...
I would not. See, when I heard Persona 5,
I would not count that as a DLC.
When I heard Persona 5 Royale,
why would you not count it as a DLC?
Because for one, the base game, they changed so many elements of the story that it offered a completely new feel to the story, and it actually is. I feel, you know what it was?
I hate the sound of
DLC
so much.
For me, Persona 5, and I might just be the only one thinking this. Persona 5 Royal to me is not a DLC. It's like an HD expansion.
What the fuck is the difference?
Expansion is a DLC.
Yeah.
No, expansion in the sense of like it. Well, no, because DLC is usually just like in the case of like Sword and Shield, right? It's like they tack it on to something that is pre-existing.
Like a reimagining.
Yeah, it's like a reimagining, basically.
Wait, so
it's like a more fleshed out version of something that is completely different from the baseline.
A question to somebody who doesn't know either.
Yeah.
If I was to jump into the Persona game.
Yeah.
Which one is the Persona experience?
Royal.
Yeah,
that's why I brought up.
So it makes Persona 5 kind of.
Yeah. It does. Royal, like
that's kind of fucked up. They bring out a game that's like, oh yeah, by the way, the old one, fucking useless now.
Yeah, it's kind of like. I mean, that's why I brought up Persona 5 Royale as the argument because I know you fucking love it. But I'm like, Persona 5 Royale has made Persona 5 the base game just totally irrelevant.
Doesn't that piss you off though? You paid money for Persona 5. And then they, like, a year later, they were like, oh, by the way, Persona 5, but better?
Yeah.
You know what? Atlas, take my money. I don't give a fuck.
There are 2 gamers inside of Joey. Yeah. One hates DLC, one loves Persona 5 Royale.
Yeah. I hate DLCs if they're not done by Atlas.
We've been doing that since 2010.
No, they did it with Persona 4 as well, though.
Yeah, they did it with Persona 4 and 3.
And 3.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? Every single time the reimagined expansion version of it has always been better. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that for me though, that doesn't take away from the experience of playing the original game either. Because I still have great memories of playing the original Persona 5 when it came out.
Yeah.
Right? But now there's just like an added experience on top of it.
Yeah. I mean, I actually kind of agree with you with DLC. The way I really think about it, right, with something like Persona 5 or like Persona 5 Royale or a lot of these DLCs is the way I think about it, it's kind of just like the Lord of the Rings director's cut. You know, do you want the 3-hour director's cut? And most of the time I say no. Right, for most games, I don't really care about DLC. I think the only DLC I've actually bought and enjoyed is the Mass Effect DLC, and that's my favorite game of all time. You know, so you know there can be good content with DLC, but most of the time, DLC appeals to me if I haven't played the game yet. You know, because I tried playing something like Horizon Zero Dawn DLCs, and the problem is once you've checked out of a game, once you've completed it and it's been like fucking months and months, DLC 1 you don't care, 2 you've forgotten a lot of it, 3 a lot of the time it builds on the base game to be like post end game content, and by that point I've already forgotten all the fucking mechanics, you know. And the muscle memory's gone, so I'm just fighting monsters that are like I'm a beginner fighting monsters that are like 10 levels above what I remember them being. So I'm like, fuck, I've got to relearn this game just to play the DLC, you know. And unless the game's simple enough, I'm probably not going to play it. And I agree, I would prefer just to get another base game rather than just, I want to invest myself in like a 30 to 40 hour period of like gameplay rather than just a 10-hour tack on. If I hadn't played the game, that's great. I get 10 more hours of this extra game that I'm already invested in.
Yeah.
It's definitely case by case for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reason it might work for Royale or something like that is because it's just a completely finished game. You know,
Yes.
it's a completely finished story. There is no, I mean, I say this, but they did make more Persona 5, just not.
well, they did Persona 5, the fucking hack and slash Persona 5 game,
oh
right?
shit! I just realized I made my own argument irrelevant because that is just fuck.
They released the tactics game as well.
They released the tactics game as well.
Okay, ignore me.
And a rhythm game.
I don't have an argument to stand on.
Why the fuck are they so against putting their things on PC?
What, Atlas?
Yeah.
No, it is on PC.
It is on
Not
PC.
Persona 5.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Royale's on PC.
Royale's on PC.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah,
Oh my,
recently
like,
on
why?
PC.
Why recently?
Because Microsoft.
Because gamers like you complained loud enough.
Yeah, no, I wanted it like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
3 years ago.
Yeah, but you have to remember as well that like it took 10 years for them to make Persona 5 after Persona 4. So
Yeah,
they
but-
are very slow moving in that sense. But
Oh, they gotta-
in that case, you know what? Atlas has very few misses in my opinion. So it's worth the wait.
Hey,
in
let
my
them
opinion.
cook, man. Let them
Yeah,
cook.
I'm letting them cook.
We have
I
enough-
know Persona 6 is gonna come out in like 2050, but you know what? I'm gonna let them cook.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good game.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. Like, there is, not just with games, there is enough media out there to satisfy your boredom. If you don't have something to play, there is enough of a fucking backlog.
Yeah.
If a game releases, if something like Cyberpunk does release in a buggy form, yes, of course, there is some fault with the game developers for releasing that early, but a lot of fault also comes with the company as well for having, for setting unrealistic release schedules.
Well, the company is. I mean, I as much as I'm not sympathetic towards companies at all.
Yeah.
But obviously they're just like, all right, we have this much money. You gotta. This is how long it'll last. You got to get something out by then. And obviously when it's not ready, it's like, well, we either cut the game or we give more money or we push it out right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's just the industry is just not in a good spot right now. People are not being paid enough.
Yep.
Anyway, so yeah. But the thing is, a lot of these game companies make like record profits, which is like, okay. So what's the excuse then?
So where's it going?
Like, stop paying Activision. Stop giving your CEO a $20 million bonus and make a god fucking good game.
Yeah, I mean, gamers are one of the community that I see complain the most. Yet somehow they
Get fucked
keep
the most.
They keep giving them money.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
I'm so firmly against pre-ordering. And when people pre-ordered shit, I'm like, what's wrong with you? You're the reason why we can't have nice things, because they know they can release this like shit and you'll buy it.
Yep.
All right, what do you guys think of early access then?
I hate all
I hate
access.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I know that everyone's like, no, but they advertised it, and it's like, no, they released it, they put it out there, people are gonna play it, and they're gonna think that's the game.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, to me, early access
It's
is
like crowdfunding.
Yeah.
Essentially, the way I see it. Like it's more of a hey, invest in this idea. If you do, I promise I'll fix it. But there's no promise.
There's no promise.
to,
Yeah.
to,
It'll
to,
be
to me,
finished.
like early access is Cyberpunk's release with better PR. You know, I've never really understood early access to me as I understand it like conceptually on paper, but in practice, I'm like,
Well, I think it makes sense, like you said, conceptually, but I think it just has been abused.
yeah,
A lot of people will, you know, especially in like horror games, they'll just make a half-baked horror game, rake in a bunch of money, get
Yeah.
a MatPat video, and then they're like, all right, well, I'm out. I don't make it anymore. Well, I don't need to finish it. What's finishing it going to do?
good old Matt Pat keeping early access horror games alive.
Dude, like it's like you look at something like Poppy's Playtime, and like you're in. I was in like Fuji Q, and they were selling.
the
Huggy
dolls,
Wuggy
right?
Is
Yeah.
called. They were selling fucking Poppy Playtime plushies in Fuji Q. I'm like, what the fuck is this game that big?
Yeah.
What the hell?